So, how are you guys, huh?
Good.
Great, great. It was nice to be here at the falls. I hadn't been here before. Very beautiful. Got that Horseshoe Falls. So, what I'm going to do is allow you guys to ask whatever questions you want, as long as they're G-rated. We have children here. And I'll be happy to answer your questions, and we'll just have some fun. Okay, did you have a question, sir?
Yes, how was it working with Adam West?
Adam is a lot of fun. He's a really nice man. He's just like his character, actually. He kind of thinks of himself like Winston Churchill, you know? I mean, very dignified and suave. And I'm like a kid, so we get along. We're like complete opposites. All right, and let's see who else. Yes, sir, you got a question.
Yes. How did you feel about the way the show progressed? I mean, when in the pilot it was really serious, people got killed, you had characters you never saw again. Then it became hardcore comic book, then more campy, and then by the third season you had some really good stories, but it was straight sitcom.
Yes, well, I didn't see it quite that dramatically. What I thought was that in the beginning when we were filming, everything was very creative. We had a series of different directors who were very creative, excellent directors. But the problem with Batman is it was a very expensive show to make. And with 80 people on the crew, it cost $30,000 an hour to film. And this is back in 1966. And it seemed at the end of the week that the producers were losing $200,000 to $300,000 a week. That's a lot of money to lose back in 1966. So they tried to find some ways to cut the budget. Actually, in the third season is what they had done, which, I think changed some of the quality of the programming. But overall, our show, for 120 episodes, it was different than every other show. It was the first show on television that I think actually put people on. We used to say that we put on our tights to put on the world. In fact, we were the only superheroes that wore our underwear on the outside of our clothes. So it was a lot of fun to make, and I think we appealed to a very broad audience. Children enjoyed the hero worship of fighting villains, climbing walls. The adults, they enjoyed the nostalgia of the comic book. And the teenagers and college kids, who were a very hard audience to catch back in those days, I think enjoyed the subtle things that we did with double meanings and things like that. So, to answer your question is, yes, it progressed. There's a lot of really great stuff. I mean, Batman is a classic. People ask me all the time, how do you compare that to The Dark Knight? I say, well, our Batman was the Bright Knight. So, okay, who else has got a question? Yes, sir, back here.
Speaking of costumes,
Mm-hmm.
how did you and Adam actually get into your suits? Was there like
Painfully.
no, when go down to the bat pole? Was there like a chamber somewhere?
Oh, no. Well, we tell people that we would run to the bat pole, slide down, and we had a wardrobe man who slid down behind us to help us get dressed. But no, we used a cinematic term where we cut the film and we slid down, and then we changed, and then we slid down the bat poles, which actually was very high, about 65 feet tall at the top of the soundstage.
Also, there's a second part to that. Sorry. How would you actually get back to your street clothes from the bat cave?
Well, if you watched in the movie, there's a scene where we stand on what looks like pedestals in the bat cave, and it shoots us up.
Okay,
And the idea was that our costumes were actually hanging. Alfred the Butler would always
so
put our
there
costumes
was something
on the way up, so it kind of changed real quick. But you got to be careful. If you hit the wrong button or turn the wrong way, you could end up in the wrong clothes.
Okay.
All right, sir, back there.
What would be your personal favorite holy line? My personal favorite would be wholly contributing to the delinquency of minors back.
You did that pretty good. We had a whole bunch of them. I don't remember exactly. I think there's something like 378 lines, and most of them were written for me by the writers. Sometimes the writers we didn't think had the right feel for it, so I would make changes in some of my dialogue, and Adam would make changes in some of his dialogue. But we had some really, some were funny. They're supposed to be apropos of the situation, you know what I mean? But then they had some that were kind of goofy, like, "Holy strawberries, Batman, are we in a jam?" Yeah.
Do you have a favorite episode, and do you have a favorite guest star villain or a favorite villain?
Yeah, people ask that all the time. You know, for me as a young actor, working with so many real stars, you know, there were stars that when I was a kid were, you know, in feature films and stuff, names that you might not even recall or have heard of, like Tallulah Bankhead, you know, just fabulous actors and actresses that everyone was a pleasure to work with. Everyone was different. Everyone brought something new, and for a young actor, I was like a kid in a candy store working with all these great Cesar Romero, Burgess Meredith, the Penguin, Frank Gorshin, the Riddler, then famous Shakespearean actor Maurice Evans. You know, I mean, there was some really great actors and actresses. Everybody wanted to get involved, and then there actually weren't enough villains for all the actors that wanted to be on our show, so they created these scenes where we climb up the wall and then somebody opens a window and, you know, has dialogue with us, and that's how they could get these additional celebrities into the show. So it was a lot of fun. I didn't have a specific one, though. I learned something from everybody. Yes, sir.
Do you, what was it like working with Vincent Price?
Oh, Vincent Price, there's a great one, Egghead. Yeah, he was terrific. Actually, there was let me tell you, there was this scene on the show. I mean, just to show you, see, you guys see things when they're finished, you know what I mean? And everything runs smooth and it all makes sense and it all flows, but when you're making things, it doesn't always really come out that way. And in the case of this one scene that I had with Egghead, what it was is that Egghead, you may remember this, I don't know, or the next time you see it, look for it. Egghead had me around the neck with a kind of a, you know, chokehold, and he had eggs in his hand, and Batman was supposed to come in, and there's some dialogue between the two of them, and then he was supposed to take an egg and break it over my head, you know, a real eggs. I mean, there's no fake eggs here. You know? So, and you know, this is Adam's sense of humor. You know, he's got this very strange sense of humor. So what happened is he kept goofing up his lines after I got hit on the head with the egg, which means you have to do it over and over. And now I got sticky yellow egg going down the back of my neck, under my cape, under my vest, under my t-shirt, all the way back, you know, back almost to the bottom there. And you know, it was, and actually, when you get hit on the head with an egg, it actually, you know, it actually could hurt a little bit. I mean, it wasn't a major hurt, but you get hit with a dozen over a period of 15 or 20 minutes, and you start really, you know, like, So anyway, long story short, what happened was, I guess Adam had gotten satisfied that whatever his joke was done, so he got the line right. Well, then I was supposed to pick up an egg and, you know, and hit Egghead with it. Well, because of what had happened, I picked up a whole box of eggs, you know, a dozen eggs, and I smashed him so hard on Vincent Price's head that it moved the egg a little bit. Kind of off-center egg. But, you know, nobody noticed, and, you know, but that's just to show you how things are. Yeah, it was funny. Yes, sir.
I understand you did most, if not a lot, or all of your own stunts for a couple of reasons. Can you tell us about some of the things you went through?
Batman actually was a dangerous show to make. It was really, I got hurt, and I'm not an accident-prone person. I'm a black belt in karate, and I'm a very athletic person, but it was a very dangerous show to make, and they did not have in those days the kinds of protections for the performers that they have today. So, for example, in the very first day of filming, and the very first shot had to be on set at like 5:30 in the morning, and your makeup, and you're like, you hardly keep your eyes open. You get in this horrible costume that's like you wouldn't believe. But in any event, so I go to the Batmobile, very first shot. It's the famous scene coming out the Batcave with the Batmobile, where, you know, Batmobile comes out, makes this sharp left turn, the sign goes down. Okay, I'm sure you've all seen that. Anyway, so when I got in the Batmobile, this is the first shot, and I'm sitting there, and I look over, and I, you know, start to say hello to Adam, and it's not Adam. And I said, oh, excuse me, you know, there's somebody in a Batman costume. I said, who are you? And this guy's name, I'm Hubie Kearns. I said, oh, well, what are you doing in Adam's costume? He says, well, I'm a stuntman and I'm here to do this shot because it's a very dangerous shot. Oh, I say, okay. What's so dangerous about it? Well, I have to come out at 55 miles an hour. I have to make a very sharp left turn. And you know, it's when you're going at that speed, you know, things can happen. I said, okay. And then I say, geez, you know, I wonder if I have a stuntman. And he said, oh yeah, you have a stuntman. Oh great, well, where is he? Oh, he's over there talking to Adam West. Having coffee with Adam. And so I said, wait a minute, there must be something wrong here. So and they're saying, okay, everybody in place, getting ready for the action, right? So long story short, it's like, I mean, it can happen so quickly, you know, that you're not prepared for it. So I said, wait a minute, called over the assistant director, and his name was Ruben. I said, Ruben, I think there's a terrible mistake here. I mean, you've got Adam West, you know, being doubled here by this gentleman named Hubie, who says this is a dangerous shot. He said, no, that's right, he's right. I said, yeah, but I'm sitting here. Why aren't you using, I mean, don't I have a stuntman? He said, yes. I said, well, why isn't he here? Well, he's over there drinking coffee with Adam West. I understand what he's doing, but why isn't he here? And I'm over there drinking coffee with Adam West, and this is such a dangerous shot. He said, well, Bert, we got a problem. I said, what's the problem? He says, the stuntman doesn't look like you. I said, well, wait a minute. Why would you hire somebody to be my stuntman if he doesn't look like me? Well, we couldn't find anybody. I said, well, so now I have a stuntman that you're paying for, that you're not using? I mean, why can't you use him? Well, because when we come out with the Batmobile, the stunt driver's got to go right at the camera and make that sharp left turn, and your face is going to be right there in front of the camera lens. And with this other gentleman who's got this gigantic nose, he's not going to look like you. Anyway, long story short, so I said, well, all right, you know, what else can you do? You know what I mean? Everybody's waiting for you, and, you know, so, all right. So anyway, we come out of the Bat Cave, and this is in Bronson Canyon in Hollywood. We come right at the camera. The stuntman did a perfect job. You know, comes out 55 miles an hour. He makes a sharp left turn, but unexpectedly, my door flew open. Okay, and with centrifugal force, it started throwing me out the door, and I just happened to reach around and I caught my pinky finger on the gear shift knob, which kept me from falling out, but it just pulled the finger right out of the joint. Very painful. I'd never had that happen before. And but also the door hit the lights, knocked one of those big arc lamps over, very dangerous, could have caught fire, knocked the cameraman off the behind the camera. I mean, it was a real accident. So, and I'm in a lot of pain, and everybody's like, you know, running around, what are we gonna do, what are we gonna do? And I said, look, you know, I really think I have to go to the doctor because, you know, this thing is sticking out in a way. And they said, obviously, Bert, and we'll get you right away to the doctor as soon as we get the shot. So wait a minute, how long is that gonna be? Oh, it shouldn't be too long. Well, they had to set up all the lights, they had to go through this and that. It was like almost 4 hours later, and I was at the emergency hospital. And the doctor was very nice. It's a terrible thing, how did it happen? And I said, you don't want to know. Anyway, that was day one. 4 of the first 5 days I was in the emergency hospital. Second day, there's a burning car. This was with the Riddler show, with Jill St. John as Molly. And there's a car turned over, supposed to be on fire. Riddler Frank Gorshin is in the car, and I'm in the car below him. In other words, I'm down at the bottom when the car is burning. And the idea was that Frank Gorshin would come and jump out of the car, and then I would come and jump out of the car. And so that you don't get confused, the character Molly, which is played by Jill St. John, and this was later in the show when they had made this mask of me that she was wearing. I was actually playing as though I was Jill St. John, so I was his hench lady, so to speak. Anyway, fire's on, gonna shoot it, you know, and it's very claustrophobic and smoke, I mean, real smoke and stuff, you know, and you're in a confined area. And so anyway, he comes out, Frank Gorshin jumps down, I come out, and just as I start to jump, unexpectedly, the car blew up. Threw me to the ground, I mean, just like that ground came right at my face, and my neck stung, 2nd-degree burns, okay? Back to the hospital. And now the doctor's starting to get to know me, you know? 3rd day, we're shooting 20th Century Fox. They tell me, Bert, this is a one-shot deal. There will be no second takes. We've got the entire street lit. This is like, if you remember that when Batman went into the disco, and I'm supposed to be watching the screen, and he's doing this dance with Jill St. John and all that, and she gives him the potion, and he collapses. Anyway, what happens, I jump up, and the Riddler shoots me with a dart in the arm. I'm supposed to be knocked out. They told me, Bert, no matter what, you cannot move. When you're knocked out, we have no other cameras to cut away. This is a one-shot deal. You have to stay there and do not move. Well, so I did that, and then the Riddler comes running up to the car, and he wants to start the Batmobile. Well, he presses a button that he thinks is a starter. In reality, it shoots off all these fireworks. And they shoot way up in the real fireworks. It's not like fake. Well, the ashes are blowing down. They're burning through my scalp, burning through my arm. Okay? Real painful. Real. And I can't move. I can't move. Anyway, after the shot, back to the hospital. I honestly didn't think I was going to survive the first episode. And just to let you know that because I rode a motorcycle to work every day, they didn't like that either. So what they decided to do was take out an insurance policy on me. And they took out a $3 million life insurance policy, and miraculously, I didn't die. You know? So, but by the end of the third season, I could swear they were trying to collect on that policy. Anyway, who else has got a question? Yes, sir.
What about all the things you did after Batman that had to do with either your character or you, like the fact that my phone is going on. Like the fact that you and Adam did those specials.
Yeah, we did Legend of the Superheroes. We also did a movie a few years ago for CBS Sunday Night Movie of the Week. Back to the Batcave, The Misadventures of Adam and Bert. Yeah, we've done some fun things.
And you also did Clueless, where you were the guest.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of guest appearances and stuff like that too.
And
Yeah.
then you did a movie where you played a father, and they had you say "Holy" something.
Yeah, I did a bunch of these forgettable small TV movies. They were fun though. Yes, sir.
It reminds me that I saw at the Free Comic Book Day, I noticed, there was a misadventure of Burt Ward, the Boy Wonder. So
Yes.
what's your involvement with that?
Oh. Even as we speak today, I just found out now that the full comic book has come out without my approval. And now they're doing a second without my approval. So I really don't know. I'm going to have to figure a way to stop that because I'm not, without the input to make sure it's correct for the character, it's not a cool thing. But that is real, yes.
How many actual suits do you still have from the show?
Just one. Actually, I had two, but one was donated, and it's hanging in the, it's in Chicago at that, Andrew, where's it?
Planet Hollywood.
Huh? Planet Hollywood, yeah. Yes, sir.
Aside from Adam West, who is your favorite of the movie Batman? Which actor do you prefer as the movie Batman?
Well, you mean, but here's the thing. To be honest with you, they're all fine actors. They're great actors, but they're all actors. In my honest opinion, Adam West was really bad. I mean, he really, he lived it. And when I was selected for the role, there was 1,100 young guys tried out for Batman, for the role of Robin in Batman. 1,100, that's an awful lot of people. And when I was hired, the executive producer, his name was William Dozier, he said to me, he said, Bert, he says, the reason we're picking you is because in our mind, if there really was a Robin, you would be that person. I said, well, gee, thank you for the compliment. He says, so, we don't want you to, quote, do any acting. We actually want you just to be very enthusiastic, but be yourself, which is what I did. So when I would go out and make appearances or even come to meet people, you have people come up and they say the funniest things like, gee, you really sound like yourself. I don't think so. Yeah, but you really, you act just like yourself. Well, if you are what you are, that's it. So, but I do appreciate all the great actors, but I don't see them quite. I see them as actors in a role that do other things. And even though Adam did a lot of other things, we really took our show seriously in the sense of a dedication to it, and that's why it's been on now for 45 years.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, anybody, yes, sir.
The Batmobile.
There've obviously been a lot of superhero movies come out over the last 10 years or so. It's sort of been enjoying quite a revival. Has your schedule allowed you to get out to see any of those superhero movies? And is there one that stands out in your mind as a favorite or one you enjoyed?
You know, I've enjoyed most of them. I haven't seen the Avengers yet. I hear that's really spectacular, but I have, you know, I mean, I've seen some of them, and I think they're good. You know what though is that they are all, well, not copies, but they're taking something that already was new. Our executive producer in Batman, because you know at the time to come out with a comic book character to try to make it even semi-real and everything was a really big thing to do in those times. And our executive producer used to say, he said, I'd rather be an innovator than an imitator. So most of the things you would see, like even when Wonder Woman came out and you know Shazam and all these shows, they were, you know, another network saying, hey, let's try to go do something like that because that's a big hit. Okay, yes, sir?
You said there was an insane amount of people auditioning for your role. As a young actor, what was the role like to audition for? What was the process?
Oh, well, you can see my audition right on the internet.
Can you?
Oh, yeah. What was funny for me is because people say, oh, did you read Batman as a comic book? And you know, where I lived, they didn't have Batman comic books. I knew nothing about it. And as an actor, wanting to be hired, when I was sent out to 20th Century Fox, I didn't even know what I was sent for. In other words, they didn't say, oh, like, hey, you know, Bert, you know, we want you to go out, there's this role of a comic book character, blah, blah, blah. Nah, they just said, hey, you know, I got you an appointment over to see a casting director at 20th Century Fox. Go see so-and-so. So I went there to see him, and they didn't talk about what the character was going to be. They only wanted to know about me. And he said, oh, well, you know, after talking to you, Bert, would you like to meet the executive producer? And I figured, oh, everybody gets to meet the executive producer, but that's really not the case. I didn't know that, though. And when I met him, he said to me, he said, well, you know, you're kind of big. And I said, well, I promise you, sir, I won't grow anymore. But he said, okay, well, how about, would you like to do a screen test? And I said, fine. You know, again, I thought everybody gets to do it. And that's not true. They don't. But so when I did the screen test, I was just handed what they call sides, which are what the actors read, their lines. And it just said, Bruce and Dick. It didn't say Bruce Wayne, or Dick Grayson, you know what I mean? Bruce and Dick. Who knows? Anybody could be Bruce and Dick. So I did those lines, and then after that, okay, and then I did some martial arts stuff. I broke a board with my hands. And back in 1965, that was something. I mean, everybody sees all the martial arts and the MMA and all that stuff now, but that wasn't then. Anyway, so they said to me, well, now that you've done this part, we want you to go over to the wardrobe trailer, and we have 2 wardrobe men who are going to help you get changed. I said, well, I don't need any help getting changed. You know? They thought, yes, you are. So I go over there, and they've got this costume. And because I never read Batman, didn't know anything about Robin, I had no idea what this was. Okay, I thought maybe some Shakespearean period piece or something. But they got me in this costume, and the worst thing I'd ever been in my whole life. And you know what I mean? And here to spend the next 3.5 years of my life, 14 hours a day, 5 days a week in that costume, believe me, took some emotional adjustment to do that. But anyway, we came out and we did our lines, and you know, I saw Adam West in this costume. And you can actually, there's a great video, I hope you get a chance to see on the internet, where somebody pieced together the screen test that Adam West and I did together, intermixed with the screen test that Lyle Wagner and this other young guy named Peter DL did together. And you can really see how we approached the characters differently. Really see. If you watched them, like the way Lyle Wagner and this guy, Peter DL did it, they were just like singing their lines. I mean, they did it as honest as they could make it, but you had the feeling you were watching somebody just literally memorizing and now speaking lines. And there's the part of it, like for example, there's a scene where Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson are talking, and this is after the Riddler served Batman with a lawsuit, and Bruce says to Dick something like, he says, you know, I've researched all of this, and there's just no way out of it. My secret identity is going to be exposed. He said, I don't have a leg to stand on, and he stands up. You know, I mean, which was the style of Batman, but you could tell he he was mocking, you know, he was playing on play on words. Whereas when Lyle Wagner said the same line, he got up, but he did it at the wrong timing, you know? So, and in fact, the number 2 producer of the whole show said in all of his years of casting shows that he felt Batman was the best casting that they had ever done together, the 2 producers. Anyway, so the long and short of it is, yes, you can watch it. It's really terrific. You can really see, you know, the difference and how we brought it to life, even from the screen test. Okay, yes, sir.
The gentleman that played Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara, I heard they didn't get along. Was that true?
No, that's not true. Neil Hamilton played Commissioner Gordon, and Stafford Rep played Chief O'Hara. Everybody got along great. I will tell you, the Aunt Harriet was quite a character. Her name was Madge Blake, and she was the sweetest little old lady that you could ever want to meet. But I had been warned, don't stand too close to her, because when she would do her line, she would get very nervous. You know, and she grasped onto you, and she like had a death grip, you know. And so there were a couple of times when she got a hold of me, and then I was supposed to cross over and go to the other side, and they'd say, "Cut, Bert, why didn't you do this?" Well, you can't tell on this poor little old lady that she was holding you back, you know what I mean? So she'd start to come over like this, and I'm like, I say, "Yeah, Aunt Harry," you know, and I'd turn in such a way she couldn't get a hold of her. These are the adjustments you make when you're trying to do something and you're supposed to do it at a certain time in a certain way. Anyway,
let's take
anybody
one
else?
more. And then
Yeah, yes, sir.
You and Batman got in quite a few pickles there. Is anyone in particular that stands out for any?
What kind of pickles are we
You know what I
talking
mean?
about?
Like, dilemmas, like you'd be tied up or.
Oh, I mean,
something, or-
I used to say that, you know, somehow managed to survive every week after being tortured heinously. I've been tied down to railroad tracks and vats of boiling oil and giant birthday cakes. I mean, there's so many different, you know, and in reality, because of the way these people did these effects, you know what I mean? They were dangerous, even though they weren't supposed to be. You're supposed to be, you know, we're all supposed to just do the shot, walk away, have a nice day. And I ended up being driven to the hospital. You know what I mean? Let me give you one last example. Finish with this example. In that first episode, there's a scene when Robin is tied down to the table, and Frank Gorshin is the Riddler, and Joe St. John is Molly, and they're making this death mask of me that she's going to end up trying to look like Robin to fool Batman. Anyway, long story short, I'm tied down to the table, and they're supposed to have a breakaway set. That means where you see what looks like a regular thing, but it's made out of balsa wood, so it just would fall apart if you have the slightest charge, you know, little charge. Well, anyway, Batman's supposed to blow a hole through the subway to get in to rescue me. And what happened, there was a big miscommunication, and the people who built the set didn't build a breakaway set. I mean, they built just like you build a house. There's no way that's going to break away. There was no time to fix it. So what did the special effects people do? In their infinite wisdom, they used 2 half sticks of dynamite and nearly blew the entire soundstage down. I'm tied down with my hands apart, and I had 2x4 land on my nose, but I broke my nose. Back to the hospital again. You know, and plus I couldn't hear for hours. I mean, if you've been near dynamite, it's terrible. Anyway, I think I should. Yeah, right. That's a pickle. All right. Anyway, you guys enjoy, and I'm going to let Andrew
just
say.
mention real quick on Monday, if you guys are available at 8:50 on Fox and Friends, which does air up here. They're doing a big feature on BURT. He'll be on live talking about his rescue and have the Batmobile there. So watch that. And BURT has also just signed to start his own reality show. So keep your eyes out for that. And with that, BURT, to the Batcave.
To the Batmobile. Thank you.